every Friday, and this is another way that engaged Real Talkers really beef up the show, if you will. You see what I did there? They beef up the show with their hot takes. That's right. Everything you're about to hear is a real email to talk@ryanjesperson.com or a YouTube comment on one of our episodes. It's the Flamethrower, presented by the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. So fun hanging out with them, the DQ team at the Glendale yesterday. This one from Chantal, who says, I was so pissed off at the Canada Day Parade in Airdrie, Alberta, to see a vehicle with the Alberta Prosperity Project in the parade. She says they had their windows open and I gave them a loud ass boo. What a shame to insert themselves into a nation's celebration that they don't even want to be a part of. That from Chantal. What are parade organizers doing, letting Alberta separatists into a Canada Day parade? Are you fucking kidding me? Wes says, Jespo, your interview with Pete Guthrie and Scott Sinclair, it's time for Pete Guthrie to go away. He says, come work for me for a week with your EV truck, Pete. Hopefully you can make it back to the city after work without charging it for an hour. And then after eating supper, your family's already asleep at home. And then you wake up again at 5 a.m. to make it work on time, hopefully without charging your truck, and then work and then repeat till the weekend and hope that your kids remember you. That's what rural people will have to do with EVs. I don't think Pete said anything about EVs, but Wes, will take your point. How about this from Les, who says, breaking news, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is in the hospital. This is not true, by the way. Don't worry, everybody. He says, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is in the hospital. She was stung by a bee on her nose, and her face is all swollen. Spokesperson Brian Jean said, the bee almost got away, but don't worry, I hit it with a shovel. That from Les. How about this one from Patrick, who says, Jespo, good morning to the best talk show on planet Earth. Thank you very much, Pat. Says, with all the talk about separatism, independence, I wanted to share some stats that have come out of an important group with you. That's the 18 to 34 demographic. And Pat, you're right. Says, in fact, it could help everybody understand why Alberta's separatist movement hit a wall right off the bat, while Quebec's movement has a lot more potential to gain in popularity over the next decade or so. He says, you got to pay attention to what's happening in Quebec. He says, but Anglo media is not even making the effort. He's recommending that we check out more French news services. He says you can, of course, use the translating closed captioning to better understand it. He says, but we need to seek to understand what's happening in Quebec and the difference in young people there to better understand what could happen in Alberta. That from Patrick. What about this one from TSM, who has a comment on Alberta's new sheriffs, the new independent police force? TSM says, I think the RCMP should just leave contract policing in Alberta and spread those officers out throughout the rest of the country. In fact, just leave the province of Alberta or make them all focus on federal matters, working under the conditions that the Premier and her UCP goon show have created by constantly saying they're doing a poor job, we pay them too much, or at least we pay too much for them, and crime's out of control. It's got to be taxing on those officers. TSM says the RCMP should consider their officers' mental health and leave policing in the province of Alberta. It's no longer a workable relationship. She says by the end of 26 or the end of 2027 at the latest. And if the sheriffs don't have enough officers by then and public safety erodes even further, well, then that's too bad for Alberta. I guess you can figure it out. Maybe you can get Trump to send in the National Guard. TSM says the OPP in Quebec, yes, they have their own police, but they were established decades ago when the cost of policing was not where it is now. They didn't have cybercrime. They didn't have political crime. They didn't have sophisticated organized crime to deal with. The costs of those alone are billions of dollars to investigate, and Alberta has officially entered the fuck around and find out stage. That from TSM. How about this one from Blahsheep, who says, I was looking for a political party that would lower taxes, stand its ground against Ottawa, and bring in a provincial police force. Quebec, Ontario, Newfoundland have them. Why can't we? Alberta used to. I think Danielle Smith's been great, says Blahsheep. I have a few issues, but you'll never find a perfect politician. I think she's not right enough. Sometimes Blahsheep wants her to go a little further right. He says, but I will say if Jason Kenney was still leading the party, I would never vote for them in a million years. Blahsheep says the UCP will have to majorly screw up for me to not vote for them in the next election. The PC party, their views on Alberta independence shows that I don't think I can vote for them either. I would honestly rather have those MLAs stay as independent. I think we need more independence in Parliament and in the Alberta legislature. That from Blahsheep. And this one from Krista, who brings us home on this 4th of July. She says, oh, happy July 4th to our loud, lovable, slightly unstable neighbors to the south. We Canadians adore you, your movies, your music, your triple bacon flamethrowers the size of a hubcap. But let's be honest, our relationship's been a little strained since, Donald Trump tried to break up NATO on Twitter while mainlining Diet Coke. We're like the polite couple next door, quietly mowing our lawn while you're setting off 4th of July fireworks at 3 in the morning, hollering about fake news and witch hunts. Sure, we'll still come over for the barbecue, but we're keeping one eye on the door just in case your weird uncle with that red hat starts ranting about bleach injections again. Still, says Christa, in true Canadian fashion, we'll end on a hopeful note. We know deep down you're good people. You just need to sober up from your reality TV hangover. So cheers, America. Happy Independence Day. We'll keep the beer cold and the border mostly open. Eh? That's from Krista, who nails it on this episode of The Flamethrower, which is proudly presented by the DQs in Palisades, Namao, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road. When you swing by for a Smarties Blizzard and a flamethrower this weekend, you make sure to let them know Real Talk sent ya. We'll be back at it next week. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Thanks for supporting the show. One love.